Hey, Jamie. I don't know if this is going to work, but I had to call you. Well, not call you, but voice memo you. I'm walking to go pick up my kids. Can you hear what my footsteps sound like? You're like, what is that? That is snow slush. And I also have an umbrella because it's currently raining. Also, earlier today, there was a full on blizzard as well as a thunderstorm at the same time. This does not happen. Those two things aren't meant to happen at the same time. And yet here we are. This morning, there was literally nothing on the ground. This day is the weirdest weather day ever. It feels extremely apocalyptic. I'm just going to name it. End times vibes all around. Anyway, I feel like really enriched and like enlivened by our conversation last night. And I'm so glad I have a friend like you who enjoys having conversations about how like society is dying and then won't judge me for the fact that that actually kind of like revved me up and like inspired me. It really does. It was so fascinating. This afternoon, I had a conversation with someone who works in long-term care, like nursing homes. They always call them like a bunch of different names. So, like old folks' homes, but like when you're medically too unwell, there's like a whole series of them that are partially government funded. And, seniors who really can't care for themselves and have high medical needs have to wait on a long list to get in to one of them. And she was just describing, speaking of like a dying system, she was describing the way like my province has responded to a series of incidents, including like what happened during COVID, where like there were some long-term care facilities that almost like got abandoned because the outbreaks were so bad and the staff kept leaving because there was only them left and it was like a zombie apocalypse. It was really bad. But even before that, there were a few like concerns about safety and neglect and like very understandable concerns. And then just like the system's response to that was to get like hyper vigilant and triple check everything and get people in trouble and like publicly shame nursing homes that don't, meet the standards or have infractions. And I sure hope they're looking at the outcomes of what they're doing, because I'm imagining they want to do these things so that, like care for vulnerable seniors gets better. But that doesn't seem to be the case because shockingly, people therefore are like, who were already burned out and under-resourced, now feel like walking on eggshells, feel like they're under attack, like all that language, And I'm thinking about like really witnessing like, wow, this way of sort of, is it codependent? I'm not sure, but it's definitely like micromanaging. We're unhappy with you, so we're going to come in and try and control you more. That system is dying. And in the meantime, it is causing harm and really killing. I mean, maybe even literally, and certainly the spirits of the people who, think then they have to very understandably think that they have to follow the rules because they're afraid for their jobs and they just want to help their patients. But it's slowly like, if they keep trying to follow the impossible rules, it's breaking them. The dying idea is like dying inside of them, And so I've been asked to give a talk later this year about like generative conflict in these situations. And I just am thinking about how I will absolutely have to weave in the fact that the system is dying. I have some ideas and some metaphors and some images because I think that's like the most important thing to know. People think like, gosh, I need to like, why can't we all get along? And it's like, I do think there's a way we can like band together and like reclaim our humanity and not leave each other behind. But like the system will then die around us, but we can choose each other instead of the system, That's going to be my thing. Hopefully they're into that. Anyway, I had to share that because it just seemed like such a perfect example of like the dying system like we were talking about. And I had to share it while walking in this rain is definitely freezing. Like the snow is crunching under my footsteps. Like this umbrella is going to be like slick with ice when I get home. My goodness. Interesting times. Anyway, take care.
Hello, my dear. Similar to your message to me, I'm curious about what my soundscape is like for you on the receiving end, on the hearing end of this voice memo. I absolutely loved the combination of the snow slush under your feet and then the sound of the rain sprinkling on your umbrella. Where I am currently, which I hope you can maybe pick up some of the sounds of over my labored breathing. I am in a section of town, kind of right in the middle of downtown. There's like this hill of a forest right in the middle of the downtown area where I live. And it's beautiful, it's quiet, it's serene. And I'm here because I've been working out of the climbing gym all morning. And this little beautiful respite of downtown is just about a mile from my climbing gym. And our last episode, your check-in about how you've been experiencing your anatomy was the final nudge I needed in a collection of nudges being sent from both the universe and my body, and they're working in cahoots with one another to really let me know that it's time to start running again. So thank you for that. I had just completely forgotten that I even own running shoes. They're in a section of the closet that there was stuff covering it. And the timing was right. And the day is beautiful. And I decided to go for this run. Tyler mentioned it earlier today as a really good option. And what I didn't really count on or anticipate is that me, having not really significantly run for quite some time, a mile plus, not that bad, all uphill, really intense. So I've been doing a walk, run, hike sort of mix here. And it's feeling really good. I'm feeling very aware of my body, very aware of my elevated heart rate. And that actually is the specific feeling I've been looking for. I've been looking for greater intentional struggle, greater resilience. So I'm excited to do this path more often and see how much of it I can consistently run going uphill. Now, going downhill right now, not so bad. But I wanted to take a moment and send you a voice memo in response to the one you sent me a couple days ago. Yeah, I'm so delighted to hear of your delight in these conversations about the dying systems, the dying structures. And, as I'm sure you're plenty aware of, based on all of our conversations, but especially our last recorded conversation, I'm right there with you. I find it to be so exciting and exhilarating and full of hope and promise. While also, yes, I acknowledge being full of complexity of all kinds of other emotions involved in our conversations, our collective conversations about the end of how things have been, and what has the potential to emerge. And two things came to mind as I was on my little walk, run, hike. The first one being right before coming out on this run, I had a conversation with one of my clients who, I've brought up German new medicine to you and to some of my clients before, loosely in passing, about how it's something that I find really compelling. And she asked me a more kind of straightforward question, just what in her research, she has kind of mixed takes, mixed feelings on it. And she asked me kind of what about it is appealing to me. And I believe like you and I have had this conversation too, and I just got the chance to tell her, number one, that I don't subscribe to anything 100%. I think I said something to her about how there's people that I've learned from who kind of take it at like 80%, and I kind of take those people at like 70%. So I'm a portion of a portion. But the main thing for me is that the underlying foundational ethic of German New Medicine is what I believe we are emerging into in this, spacious possibility of what comes next after the death of modernity, which is allyship with the body. That is the thing that I had been working as a somatic facilitator for like 8 years with, this framework of the body. Your body is an alive, living being who is your ally and is communicating necessary information to you for the purpose of your enhanced well-being. I had been working with that framework and teaching that framework for like 8 years before I even came across the existence of this thing we call German New Medicine, Germanic healing knowledge. And there's tons I don't know about it, and there's plenty I don't necessarily know if I totally agree with, but the underlying foundational ethic of your body is for you. That's the thing that I told my client, and that I believe that I have expressed to you before, that it fit within me when I found the language of German New Medicine, as an alternative to not just the foundational ethic of what we might call like modern or allopathic medicine, but even a lot of alternative functional medicine still has this foundational ethic within it of like the body needs to be conquered, fixed, controlled, solved in some way, because the body innately is not for you, the body is against you. And so the way in which we need to achieve well-being here is to power over instead of listen to. So yeah, that conversation, and then this run, and just the fact that this run is happening because I have felt my body in the last few days like nudging me in the direction of like greater well-being through this particular expression of movement. I don't know, that's something that I just really feel like when I'm talking about my excitement about modernity, the hospicing modernity, the death of modernity, it's the retiring of that perspective in the direction of our bodies. The retiring of the perspective that they have ever been anything but 100% for us and on our team and working in collaboration with us, so that we can be abundantly well. That's the first thing. And then, oh my gosh, this view. Okay, as I'm coming down from this hilltop, I can see everything. It's such a clear day, and I can see the mountain, like the mountain we call here in my town, the mountain. I can see it so clearly, and it's so beautiful. I can't believe I live here. And that kind of flows into my second thing, speaking about the death of modernity and like what comes next, and, what are the individual choices we make. And the best we can do is get really clear on what our values are and to come into alignment with those values. Just last night, I registered, Tyler and I both registered. We registered our family, ourselves and our boys, to join about 15 of our other friends. A few people we're in community with and their children. There's going to be about 20 of us total, caravanning about 5 hours north into the wilderness of British Columbia at the end of June for an ancestral skills, like week-long festival gathering, about like 150 or so people just learning from teachers who have learned and preserved like ancient skills. Oh, hello, kitty. Various different like friction fire and like make, do, be, express, create, like herbal medicines, like skinning, tanning, animals. Like there's like a kids camp where like they're learning how to do these things as well, and there's like communal dinners and like movement practices every morning, and there's like wrestling that the men and boys can do, and totally off grid, totally zero impact. And I don't know, there's something really correct within my spirit, my mind, my body, my heart about like learning these ancient skills of like greater self-sufficiency. That feels really bolstering and comforting to me as I kind of sit with this surrendered recognition of the death of modernity. And I recognize that like as modernity passes away, so many of our comforts and the way we have adjusted to like even how we feed ourselves, like these days you can, you don't have to cook, much less forage or hunt or, figure out how to resource yourself. These days, typically, you can pull out your phone and press a couple buttons and then you're fed. But what happens if, or maybe even we would say when, that goes away? Like, what are we left with other than the skills we have intentionally decided to cultivate within ourselves? So I'm looking forward to learning how to bow hunt. And I don't know if I'll ever need it, but I just love the idea of like learning and knowing, and it feels really good in my body. So those are my thoughts. I am now down the hill back into the city, so I'm going to pick up this run again. And I hope that you are having a beautiful day, my dear. Bye.
Hey, Jamie. I decided as I was listening to your voice memo that I would once again go back out into nature. So I listened to the second half of yours amongst my own woods in my little woodlot near my house. And I loved hearing your bird song, like mixed with my own. That was really lovely. And that's so cool to hear like your body's invitation back to running. Because as you know, I just really resonate with that. And it's so interesting. Running's such an interesting one. Because like I said in the podcast, like I have been running as like a primary form of exercise and sport. Like that's been the one that I've, has the longest through line for me. And at times I've sort of felt like more intense about it, in training for a marathon. And then we would do like these like sprint drills with this running club. But thankfully it's still like, even when obviously there was times where there's lots of pain or there was times where it was hard, I never felt like it got like uber corrupted. Gosh, what do I even mean by that? Other things like going to the gym take on this quality where they feel really like permeated with some of like, I guess like the marketing fear-based body shaming messages of those places. It's like you go to the gym and you end up with this kind of body and whatever, and then you get to feel superior with your superior health or whatever, Running has never been that for me. It's always had this other quality of like, it just feels good to do. And I know I'm not going to do it the same way, certainly for the rest of my life. And that almost makes it more special. Speaking of like, death and things ending, like enjoying how my body allows me to run now and how my body enjoys to run now, and knowing that there may be a time where it looks different, I'll be running in a pool or something if my joints start to tell me no thank you to, uneven trails. That's fair. But not yet. So I'm going on the trails now, baby. And I just, and it can be kind of social in ways, and it can be like by itself. Like it's so nice how it has that flexibility. Like going for runs with people can be really cool. When I would go to like cross country meets, my like primary like mental health strategy, because they would feel really like intense and there'd be all these people, and it's sort of like you're signing up to feel intensity and discomfort and pain and exhaustion in your body. And especially in these sort of race type formats, a lot of unhelpful thoughts can build up in that setting of like, I'm the worst, I'm the best, everyone's better than me, I should give up. Like there's some of that stuff that would happen in my brain. And so my main strategy was like, pretty quickly, as we started the first, the gunshot goes off and you start running, I'd try and find someone to be like, this sucks, doesn't it? And they'd be like, yeah. And then we'd like do that for a bit. And then, one of us would pull ahead. It wasn't like then I made my best friend that way, but like there was something about early on, like offering out and receiving like validation about the intensity of the experience that became one of like my primary like mental health strategies. And it really helped combat things where like, I remember a time where cross country running, you're on trails and stuff. And so, I'm like, whatever, in grade 5 or something, or maybe I was more like in grade 10, whatever, doesn't matter. And I know I'm using Canadian ways of talking about grades, but that's how we talk in Canada. Okay. And so I'm like going up this really steep hill in the middle of this trail. And then there's this dad or this coach, there's this man, he sees someone that's from his school, because this is like one of those meets where it's like people from different schools. And he's like, okay, Sally, I don't know her name much. He's like, beat that girl. And he was talking about me. And I'm like, they're trying to get up my own hill. Thank you very much. And he's like, beat her, get up the hill before her. And it was just like, no, thank you. I guess I hope that helped motivate Sally, but it was not pleasant for me to experience. And so there's something about like trying to do some kind of counter thing of like, hey person, we're in this together. We're all actually like moving our bodies fast through space and sweating and huffing and puffing, and I mean, one of us will end up being there first, but let's be real. The person I was talking to and we're not going to be that front person. So it's fine. Like, what are we talking about? That was the best part of cross country. It was like the least competitive sport. And that's what my mental health needed. So anyway, I don't know, that memory just came to me. I also really love hearing about your like wilderness and like ancestral traditions of living off the land. That sounds like so dreamy and so cool. I would love to hear your experience after, like the parts about like the boys and men wrestling and stuff. That's like actually, I really am very curious how that goes. I think that could be something, who knows, like I wonder about something like that. I see us doing kind of versions of that with our 2 boys, but like it also just really makes me think about how you would be preparing for the Hunger Games, because I just finished reading that whole series and, get some bow hunting in there, like Katniss. That's awesome. And then hopefully you don't have to use those skills to like kill other people in an arena. You can just use those skills for fun. Or, if things really collapse, to hunt and like find food. And how cool would that be? And that's why Katniss learned those skills, was because, there wasn't enough food in her district and she would go out and she would kill the animals so that they would have more food and not starve. And like, how beautiful was that? I guess the last thing I'll say is like something tweaked in what you said about like changing our relationship to food. And like you said, like the convenience and the comforts of life. I've been really feeling, it's interesting because I'm sure I've mentioned to you multiple times, like last year, sort of the theme of the year was like pleasure practice and pleasure activism, and really like centering just things that feel good. And I'm going to continue to do that. And a piece of what I've noticed is like certain forms of things that feel good, if I either overconsume them, then they no longer feel good, whether that is books or, I don't know, or movement or certain foods or certain comfort, certain TV shows, whatever. Like there's a point in which it's like, this feels good, it feels nourishing, and then you can go beyond it, right? And now it's sort of feeling like too much or numbing. And I'm finding that like I feel like I've found some of my edges for that because I was open to exploring, like sort of fully having no limits and just being like, let's see how good I can feel last year. I like learned about that and that was good. And I needed to give myself like full permission without like setting limits then. And now this year I'm feeling like my body's like letting me know my limits a little more clearly. And I would say certainly with screens, which I'm very grateful for, as well as with food. And also, I don't know whether, as my body continues to evolve, she is letting me know that certain foods are less on the table. And there's a part of that I have a whole kind of like story. It's sort of like a weird, like it's a reverse shame or something of like, oh no, it's like I'm like slipping into diet culture or something. But like, and the diet and cultured part of my brain's like, yes, you're finally gonna restrict your diet and be healthy. And I'm like, no, I don't want that. And like, that's like, I don't want that to be the goal, or, just because I'm from a family of people who have eating disorders, like, no, thank you. And so there's this middle way and their middle path through it that I'm just trying to understand and uncover of like, right, like a specific example, definitely like ice cream, cheese, tragically, my body lets me know is not no longer on the menu, maybe in small amounts, but like certainly it's a dose makes the poison. And the dose doesn't have to be very big for like my tummy as well as my body to just feel so yucky, heartburn, fatigue, I don't know, a bunch of stuff, right? So it's like, okay, I guess we are going to eat those sparingly. And sometimes I find if it's in a certain setting, like a sort of celebratory, ritualistic setting, then suddenly the food or the substance, like even alcohol, can actually not impair me the same way, which I find fascinating. It's like certain times my body's open to it, certain times it's not. And that's something I continue to flow with and just see what it's all about. And then the latest one is definitely like candy, chocolate, sugar, which that one's such a like quagmire of diet culture. Sugar is evil, sugar's the best, sugar's whatever. Like there's so many messages of extremes from all sides. And in the middle of it, I was eating some like sour gummies and I felt horrendous after. And I was eating them in a way of like, oh, I'm tired and I'm kind of hungry and it's near the end of the day. And so I'm going to use this as a pick-me-up. And it just felt like a bad trip after. It was like, okay. So maybe this isn't the solution for this feeling anymore, and was it ever? But like my body's letting me know louder that it's not anymore. And there's honestly like a bit of sadness to that because, I know it's an inanimate synthetic substance that someone made and then I ate, but like candy has such like connection to childhood. And there was something I found, I was sort of almost like rebellious of like, I'm not going to be diet culture and be like, I'm so bad if I eat this and like whatever, I'm just going to feel the pleasure of it. And so it's sad that it's like, oh no, I don't feel pleasure with this anymore. Shoot, that's too bad. But it just goes to show like if the point is like, the point of it is to feel pleasure. If that action, or in this case, this food is like not actually even giving me that pleasure anymore, time to go. So that's its own shifting process. And I'm curious where that will land me and just trying different things. And yeah, that's like shifting your relationship to food. That's what that tweaked in me. So anyway, starting to rain. Can you hear it? It's no longer like thunder blizzarding anymore though. So that's pretty cool. It's just like regular rain. April showers bring May flowers. All right, Jamie, grateful for you as always. Bye.
Hello again. I am going to keep this relatively brief as I am also now on a rainy walk home. It's just spitting. It was pouring earlier. I was doing a little bit of work out of, and then also working out out of my climbing gym earlier. And I'm grateful the rain has mostly cleared up for my walk home. But in just listening to your last voice memo again after the client session I just finished, without going into too much detail about the session itself, there was something that came to mind for me that has to do with the session I just facilitated, and also kind of the undercurrent of what I hear you describing here in your voice memo about like this dance you're navigating with your body right now. And it's just this kind of really straightforward, simple principle, which is that so often in our lives and in the experience we are having with our bodies or trying to have with our bodies, we are largely unconsciously over prioritizing this drive, this need, this, maybe we could call it a value, to try and figure out what the right thing is And in doing so, by doing so, we are kind of checking out of the feeling state that is most needed to be found and cultivated and maintained in order to be able to determine what it is that actually feels the most good to do. Because there's tons of options in the world of ways to be. There's tons of specific expressions of type of relationship to have with sugar or with cheese, just as two examples of only foods. And there's, so many other activities and expressions and substances. And there's just so many ways to live. There's so many ways to live. And I was just sharing with my client in this last session, in the context of what we were talking about, that we can absolutely just spin on our wheels in the mud for the entirety of our lives if we are just what is it? What's the right thing? What's the right thing? What's the right thing? Instead of learning how to be in this sacred, subtle, beautiful, supportive relationship with our bodies who know not what the right thing is, but what the thing is that actually feels the most good and literally feels the most good, as in makes us feel the most well. And I mean, how often do we need to go on those journeys that you're describing where there's this kind of pendulum swing from restriction to indulgence for us to be able to be oh, okay. I think I found it. I think I found my zone. And just how important it is to just have compassion on ourselves while we do that, because that's all there is to do over and over and over. Speaking of death, every time you find a new zone, it's the death of the old zone. And movement, food, expressions of relationship, the point is that we are constantly changing. That is the point. And so there can be no permanently, consistently, much less collectively correct when it comes to being in a body, because the only body you can be in is yours. And so the only task at hand truly, truly, truly is to always find what feels the most good, to find what makes you the most well right now, not anyone else, and not later, not yesterday, not potentially at some point in the future, if it's just right, right now, right now. So that's it. That's all I've got on my walk home. I love you, and I will see you tomorrow for recording our next episode.
This is Experiential Anatomy. Thanks for listening. I'm Joan Chan.
And I'm Jamie Lee Finch. Experiential Anatomy is co-hosted and created by us.
Amber Wyndham is the editor. Julia Wyndham is the supervising producer.
Senior producer is Elizabeth Wyndham. Aaron Beatty leads our community management.
Our theme music is Park Pier 3 by G's Guy.
If you have any thoughts, questions, or stories to share about this week's episode, email us at exanatomy@gmail.com.
Please follow, rate, and review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember to join us over at exanatomy.substack.com.
Experiential Anatomy is produced by Windhaven Productions.